All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pyrotech Virtual Conference, a full day dedicated to lighting a fire for healthcare technical excellence. I'm Brett Norton from Beyond Clean, and I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for joining us today. For those of you anxiously awaiting your CE credits, and this is important that after viewing all of today's session, so you have to go through all of the conference sessions in order to obtain your CE since they're all tied together. So you'll have access to the full conference survey and you'll be able to download your CE certificate upon completion. So joining us next is Dr. Paulo Laranjeira. Paulo is the Sterility Assurance QA Manager at Cordis USA. He is a process development and qualification professional for sterilization and has conducted many investigations with biological and chemical indicators. He is a well-known industry author and conference speaker, speaking at international conferences and symposiums. What are the rules and techniques for preparing training content for a specific demographic of prospective learners? How do adults learn differently than their younger selves? Paulo is here to address how to adequately prepare training content for adults. He will address concepts and techniques to deliver captivating training content that is engaging for the participants and enhances their professional development. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Paulo Laranjeira.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and I thank 3M for the supporting and having me doing this presentation for you guys today. I'm currently the Sterile Assurance QA Manager for Cordis US Corp. And today what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about adult education. As you see during my professional development, I did a lot of research, a lot of data collection, and when you gather that much information, you publish articles, it's normal for you to try to present what you did. So there is no easy instruction on how to prepare your presentation, but I think we need to share our knowledge, what we learned. So the idea today is to show to you what I learned in how to prepare and deliver presentations, and hopefully you guys can learn from it and get some ideas in how to prepare your presentations for future presentations that you do, or even training for your peers. The learning objectives of this presentation will be describe how to prepare educational content and how to prepare it for an adult audience. So how you prepare your slides, your content, based on the audience, and this is the audience that we are going to talk about is going to be adults. Give examples of how to prepare a presentation structure for sterile processing department activities. So the sterile processing department of a hospital does have a lot of training to be done and recycling. So I'm going to give some examples on that area and apply key concepts to prepare and deliver what is important, a captivating presentation. So everyone that goes and see you, they're going to love the presentation. That's the main objective. So in adult learning, the first thing is when I'm preparing the content, I have to be aware of the recency of the content that I'm bringing. Every time you prepare a presentation, keep in mind to have the most recent topic to be presented. Don't bring old content or something that was already trained in the past, because normally you're not going to get their attention. Also, appropriateness of the content is important. If you're going to deliver a training or a presentation for a hospital professional, you have to prepare examples of a hospital site. If you're going to do it for a medical device manufacturer, you have to bring examples from the medical manufacturing site. You have to motivate your audience. So the motivation for that presentation starts with the title. They have to read your title. They say, I like to watch that presentation because I think it's going to be important. So we have to always motivate our audience to watch our presentations. Primacy. If it is the first time you're doing the presentation, or if it is a topic that nobody ever heard about it, you're going to succeed 100%. So primacy, it is important, and if you can have the primacy, you'll be right on target. Two-way communication. This is another tool that is important in adult education, especially in adult education, because the two-way communication allows your audience to interact with you. So when you ask questions and you have the feedback, you understand and you can measure if they are understanding the concept that you bring into the presentation. And you can adapt, you can even improve how you're doing your presentation. So this is the feedback that you're going to get. So the two-way communication is going to allow the feedback. You can do another feedback through pool, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But during your presentation, it is important to capture the feedback from your audience. You need to make sure during that time, it doesn't matter if it is a 15-minute presentation or an hour presentation or even a half-day presentation. If you don't capture the feedback, you are probably going to either deliver a presentation that they were not willing to watch, or you're going to miss something they were expecting to hear about. So always try to get the feedback as much as possible from your audience. Active learning. When you're doing the presentation, try to have interactions, try to have images, I know we are in a phase today that we are in a virtual environment like we are doing today, and a virtual environment is really hard to do the active learning. So, but you have to use the tools that we have today. So today we have all the presentation platforms and also the broadcasting devices or software platforms that help you do that presentation and allow you to have the active learning. We can bring music, we can bring sound of something going on in the process. Try to look into the other sensors. So when you look into sensors, sensory, multi-sensory learning, active learning, those are the tools that you're going to use to capture your audience interest, and they will learn as you use those, as you doing an active learning and using multi-sensory learning. Of course, there are some limits that we have today, but visual, if they can also see and listen, it's a lot better. So you're using a multi-sensory learning. But when you go back to the normalcy that we had before, even have examples, so allow them to touch the object or the equipment, whatever. Then at the end, you need to do the exercise. This is not, and you need to make clear to them that the exercise is not to measure if they learn, it's to measure if you were able to deliver the content. And that exercise will tell you how to improve for your next presentation. You normally do not do the same presentation. In other words, if you have a presentation and the same content, if you do it today and you do another one tomorrow, the next one is going to be different from today's. Because it depends on the audience, depends how you interact and how you evolve, and the exercises will also allow you to know if you need to improve how you deliver your content. Great, so now let's take a deep dive in how to prepare my content. What should I look for when I start preparing my presentation or my training? So for the content planning, what I'm going to use, like I mentioned at the beginning of our webinar, we are going to talk about the sterilization area that we have in the hospital, or SPGs. Sterilization Processing Department, or CSSD, Central Sterilization Supply Department. And when we have an area or a population or a region that we are going to use, it's important, because then we can start planning for a presentation. So I'm going to give you an examples of how you're going to prepare based on the information that you have. So we are going to talk about adult peers that work in the sterilization department and the SPGs in hospitals. So let's begin with the technology. So everybody knows about the Perkins Red Book. So Perkins Red Book was released in 1960 something. It is already in the second edition. I have one. And from that book to today, everything applies. Minor changes, but everything applies. And if you look into what we have, so this is from the Aschlab Museum in Germany. I took these pictures just to show you that the sterilizers, have been around for many, many years. And the medical devices, or the surgical instruments, were there. They were made of, now they're made of stainless steel, but let's say metallic components. And all of those instruments had to be sterilized, so they had to be placed in sterilizers and had to follow a procedure to get sterilized. So as you see, the area that we have today still has the same objective: to get a medical device that can be reprocessed, that is used. So I'm going to clean, I'm going to put in a sterilization sterile barrier, I'm going to sterilize it, and I'm going to have it ready for the surgery. So let's look what happens into the sterilization department. So in our SPGs, we have a lot of things today. So you see a difference from the past and today. They all have the same objective, but today I have more things involved. So now we know that we need to treat our water even better. We need to have a better water quality, not only for the steam sterilization, which is what is used as a sterilant for the steam sterilization, but also the water used to clean the devices. Then you have to learn about the sterilizer. The first picture that I showed you was a Chamberlain-like sterilizer, and today we have, more effective sterilization equipment that have bigger chamber volume and have different control set points. So it's a newer equipment than what we had many years ago. Then we have to generate these steams, and the way we did in the past, the way we do it today is different. We have low temperature sterilization. Now we see even more hydrogen peroxide present in hospitals, or formaldehyde in some countries in Europe. Then we have the automated washers that help us expedite the cleaning and improving the process in the SPD. We have detergents. We have detergents today that for any application that we use, and they keep evolving. So also detergents. Then you have the sealers to be used to seal in the pouches. Then you have the non-woven sterile barriers. You have containers for those sterile barriers. We have scales to make sure that the load that I place in my hydrogen peroxide or in my steam sterilizer are within the limit to deliver the best sterilization cycle. Then we have ultrasonic equipment, and most recently those steamer jets that help us clean medical devices. And on top of that, we have the storage, automated storage, and biological indicators. You have biological indicators that are with viable spores that we need to incubate, that you're going to have results from it. So everything that we see in an SPD, we have to know when we are preparing our presentation. So what is the main information that you have from this, what I showed to you now? That the professionals in an SPD are a multidisciplinary professionals. Even though most of them are nurses, they have to know about everything that I showed you. So in the SPDs, nurses need to be engineers, nurses need to be from human resources, nurses need to understand biology, nurses need to understand chemistry. So everything that I showed, we have to include in our presentation. So when you are preparing the presentation for a profession that works in SPD, that is looking to an instrument that is being used, then is going to go through a reprocessing cycle that is going to eliminate viable spores. Then we have the lethality that is calculated using some engineering equations that all the professionals need to understand, and they were going to see that those applications that we had in the past, those old autoclaves, they have the same cycle that we see today in an autoclave about the size of this one that is already inside another one. Then we're going to talk about steam quality. We're going to talk about how to measure that water quality that is going to there, water treatment. Then we're going to talk about steam saturation, because when you use steam for sterilization, the steam needs to have the correct saturation, so it promotes the coagulation of the spores through the latent heat. We have to understand that when we are talking about a process that needs to be maintained, the person that is doing the maintenance needs to understand that that process has been qualified for a certain range of operation, and they have to make sure that the range is maintained after the technical intervention. So they have to follow technical procedures that the professional from the SPD also needs to know. So everyone that is involved in SPD, even though they look like they are just assembling trays, then they are going to be placed in a container or a non-oven type of a sterile barrier. They need to understand the whole process that is happening with that instrument that is being prepared for the next sterilization cycle. With that in mind, you have to realize that the adult that comes to a training or to a webinar will come with an expectation. So if you're talking about steam sterilization and they have a question, they're going to come with that expectation to answer that question. So it is important for you, when you prepare your content, to focus on what you want them to learn. So when they come in with a question, what need to be answered, after they watch your training, can be a 15-minute training to 6-minute training, they will leave that training with the knowledge. So this is your objective. You have your audience coming with a question to be answered, and they want them to leave with that answer. With that in mind, now we are going to prepare our instructional plan. We are going to work on our objectives, and this is what I did in the beginning of my presentation. So you need to have those objectives clear, explain to the audience, and try to motivate them as you go through them, and try to get some key points and emphasize it so they understand what they're going to watch, what they're going to learn from what you're going to present. Then work on your content, like I showed in the past slides. Prepare your strategy. How are you going to deliver that information? How are you going to use it? How are you going to prepare your slides? So as you see here, I am playing with the image in some parts of the slides as you see our presentation going, moving forward. This is because I know what I have available to me, so I can prepare correctly how I'm going to do that presentation, and then decide the activities that you want to have during your presentation as you move forward. If you are doing on-site training or lunch-ons, if you have the ability to bring them closer to the equipment or to the process so they can actually see something happening in real time, that has to be part of your instructional plan. And at the end, what are the items that you're going to have assessment on? So everything that you do, everything that you plan, that you are preparing, and this is the preparation phase, they have to be aligned from the beginning, from the learning objectives all the way to the end, especially to the assessment. They have to be aligned so you can deliver correctly the content that you plan for, and you are looking for to answer a question that your audience came to the presentation looking for that answer. Now we are going to we learn about the content based on the area that we are preparing our content. Now we need to know the audience. We need to prepare our presentation or a webinar or a training based on the audience that is going to watch it. Sometimes in individual introduction, we see people coming up to an audience and asking them to introduce themselves. Then that is not always the best approach. It's natural to see that some people do not have the interaction, or they are not able to interact. So if you do a verbal introduction or presentation of an individual that is not able to speak in public, you might not get all the information that you need to learn about your individuals that are going to be watching presentation. So what I do and what I recommend is for you to look into, we have the social medias, we have a series of ways of finding out the best way to get the proper knowledge of the individuals that are watching your presentation. Sometimes talking about habits or even hobbies help us understand about our audience and help us prepare the presentation or how we are going to deliver that presentation. It is important to remember that when adult learners look up a course, they want normally to solve a problem either in